Story 1. Planning to save what is left over each month, which turns out to always be zero. The best move I ever made was starting to pay myself first by having a portion of my paycheck go directly into a savings account at a different bank. Story 2. Underestimating upkeep is common, especially on large purchases like homes and cars. People often mistake budgeting for just saving and spending. True budgeting also includes projecting beyond the purchase date. The higher the price of an item, the higher the ongoing maintenance costs for many reasons. If it is simply larger than a cheaper alternative, supporting upkeep such as insurance will be more expensive. Additionally, if you choose a luxury level, maintenance and parts will also have luxury pricing. Story 3. One of the biggest issues is inconsistent spending and saving habits. My wife and I are guilty of this. This week, we simply did not have the time to grocery shop. While we have dinners covered, our lunches are not. $60 to $70 per person this week. Atrocious. Story 4. Not knowing the difference between being able to pay for something and being able to afford something. Thank you for the votes. Story 5. I believe the term is keeping up with the Joneses. That kind of competition drains your bank account. Story 6. Not budgeting for expenses that do not occur on a predictable schedule or every month. The timing of car repairs can be unpredictable, but no one could have possibly predicted that your 10-year-old car needed $500 worth of work. Do not get me started on people who think Christmas is a reason to dip into your emergency fund. The date is fixed every year, so how does it come as a surprise every year? Story 7. Getting a new car every few years. I know a couple who finance their cars, get new ones before they are paid off, and roll the old loan into the new one. The debt is staggering. Story 8. People who refuse to set up their own retirement plan if their work does not offer it. The only way I got through to my friend was telling her to imagine working the same job she now had, which was very physically demanding, when she was 70 and having to do it not for fun or extra pocket money but truly for a living. That sobered her right up. Story 9. Taking out a loan with a longer term so the payment is smaller. Not sure if that negatively affects people necessarily, but I have seen people trap themselves in some pretty bad vehicle loans this way. Story 10. I do budgeting for friends and coworkers. Number 1, in my opinion, is not accounting for every dollar. Let's go to Wendy's for lunch, or I'm getting takeout for dinner 3 to 7 times a week. That's $100 to $200 a week. Add in subscriptions and Amazon orders, and you are easily talking about $1,000 a month not accounted for. Everyone had at least $600 or more a month in these categories and did not know how they were mindlessly spending on a day-to-day basis. Story 11. This one is worth mentioning. My 2 rescue dogs cost more monthly than my Mercedes. Animals and pets drain your bank account. Not saying it is a bad financial decision because I work with and love animals. However, make sure you are financially comfortable spending at least $250 a month to feed and bathe them, plus whatever medication and regular blood work they need. Also, expect $1,200 veterinary bills to be regular. Story 12. I had a nephew who was always broke but had a good job at the time and no bills. He lived with his grandparents. One time, he called me for a ride home from work because his car had broken down and he couldn't afford to get it fixed. We stopped at the bank so he could cash his bi-weekly paycheck. Then he had me stop at a store so he could buy a new game, followed by an auto sound shop where he bought a stereo setup for the car he couldn't afford to fix and several other stops. I went along with all these stops because I was curious about where his money went. By the time we got to his home, he had spent the entire paycheck and had no money for the next 2 weeks. He said he got to spend extra since he didn't need to buy gas. He called me later to see if I could drive him back and forth to work for 2 weeks because he didn't have money to fix his car. I told him he did have money to get his car fixed but chose not to, and that he would have to make other arrangements. Story 13. Something that could be ruinous is marrying without discussing or combining finances. You are a team now. I know many couples where one person does not have a clue about the others or their joint money. If things go badly or if one is irresponsible, it could ruin you. Story 14. I do not know about ruin, but we have wasted a lot of money on alcohol. Drinking your money is such a waste. Story 15. Financing cars that they cannot afford and not paying their credit card bill in full every month are two of the biggest issues I see that have become normalized. Story 16. Mr. Banker, how much house can I afford? Then buying a house for that amount. A few months in, people realize they have no cash for furniture, kids' sports, or car repairs. Mr. Banker, how much car can I afford? Because they bought that big house in a fancy subdivision, all their neighbors have fancy cars in their driveways. Envy purchase. Mr. Banker, my credit card bills are out of hand because everything is so expensive out here in expensive house land. How can I consolidate this debt? I can add it to the house mortgage for 30 years? That's a deal. Bankruptcy declaration in 3, 2, 1. Story 17. People seem to be obsessed with cars. Every 4 to 6 years, they spend half their gross income on a depreciating asset because they need reliability. Cars are one of the largest inhibitors to financial growth. Story 18. Storage lockers. I know it does not necessarily ruin people, but it is just throwing money away, in my opinion. I realize it is helpful for a few months while in the process of moving or whatever. But long term, if you do not need or use the stuff you have stored away, why do you hold on to it? Story 19. Thinking small expenses do not matter. $5 coffees, $10 subscriptions, but ignoring how they silently snowball into hundreds every month. Story 20. I never understood this one. People who go to a fancier grocery store to buy the exact same products, quality of produce, and brands that you can buy at a discounted grocery store equally close to your home. I started saving $50 or more a week for the same groceries when I stopped shopping at the local Kroger store and opted to shop at Winco instead. Story 21. Payday loans. I have a friend who has a master's degree and a $120,000 a year job, borrowing $75 from my broke grade 8 part-time, $45,000 a year salary because she got into a payday loan debt 20 years ago. I am by no means a money expert, but I will never do that. Story 22. Thinking about monthly payments when trying to determine if they can afford something or should buy something. For example, thinking about $500 per month for a new car and not considering the total purchase price or the amount of interest paid over the course of the loan. Story 23. Not having proper savings accounts is a common mistake. Having $100,000 in savings or checking in a bank that pays you 0.2% interest, as opposed to having that amount in a high-yield savings account which pays 4% interest, makes a significant difference. For $1,000 is much more than $200. For some people, that difference could cover almost a year's worth of utilities. Another issue involves cars and vehicles. Making car payments instead of buying a car outright adds unnecessary costs. Buying a new car every few years and continuing to make payments increases expenses further. For example, a friend of mine buys a new truck every couple of years, and when he trades it in, he loses $15,000 to $20,000 each time. Essentially, he is paying $20,000 every 2 years for a new truck, but he does not realize this. Story 24. Eating out far too often. I know plenty of people who scoff at $20 per month subscriptions, but do not even think about spending that on a meal 3 to 6 times per week. Story 25. Financial advisor here. Most of my clients are people seeking good advice, so I do not encounter many bad situations. However, when I do, it is almost always related to buying a house you cannot afford or having multiple car payments. A few others have very expensive Christmas budgets that drain savings and lavish vacations. If you can save 20 to 30% of your income, then go ahead. Do what works for you. But if you are not able to save, then a house and cars should not be in the budget. Story 26. Eating out every day while working in the city is costly. It is amazing how $25 a day adds up, even for a professional. Story 27. Lifestyle creep. Life has its ups and downs, and that includes your financial life. You might get laid off, get sick, or face a family emergency. Your company could fail, or even your entire industry might collapse. If you do not live below your means, maintain an emergency fund, or cannot cut back when times get tough, you face financial ruin. Story 28. Ordering $40 worth of food because you are too lazy and depressed to cook the $12 worth of groceries you already bought. Bon appétit. Shame. Story 29. I am surprised at how often coworkers buy lunch instead of bringing lunch from home. These are people earning less than $20 per hour. Story 30. Not realizing that you do not need a smartwatch plan with phone carriers. 99 out of 100 people do not need it. I have seen people waste their money paying every month when they are not important enough or never away from their phone to need a standalone smartwatch line. Story 31. Hiring servants to cook, clean, and brew coffee for you. $6 a day on coffee is $2,000 a year. $8 a day on lunch is $3,000 a year. $15 a day on dinner is $5,000 a year. For a decade in your 20s, that is $100,000 plus interest. Story 32. Maybe not ruin, but Amazon. Many people I know pay $15 per month for the convenience of 2-day shipping, but they end up buying things they do not really need. Shipping is usually free for $35 purchases, so I keep items in the cart until I reach free shipping. That helps me be careful with my purchases and remove items when I find them cheaper locally. I understand it is nice to have when you have a busy household and cannot go to the store every day. I am just speaking about people who end up spending more than they would have otherwise. Amazon is almost like another form of social media at this point, always listening. They are very strategic about what they show you, and it can become an addiction. Story 33. Buying things just because they are on discount is not advisable. For example, those shoes might be 20% off at the moment, but you would not have been interested in them in the first place. Story 34. Buying tea or coffee every day. Also, having a poverty mindset destroys you in more ways than people think. Story 35. Yesterday, for my lunch, I bought a sandwich from Marks and Spencer for £4.50. Today, I bought 4 bread buns and a tub of sandwich filler from Lidl for £2.24. It is 7 times cheaper to make my own lunch. Story 36. Got in the black at 48. Now 71. Retired, living my best life. Pack lunches, coffee from home, buy food items on sale only. Put 3 kids through college. Mid-level manager who saved for the long haul. Story 37. Honestly, the thing that has helped me the most is tracking every expenditure. It is tedious, but you need to make an Excel spreadsheet with categories such as food and subcategories such as drinks, takeout, restaurant, and grocery to track where your money is going. It is also important to add any investments and paychecks into this. Over time, you will see it start to balance, and it is very satisfying. Most importantly, it will help you see where you are being wasteful and can easily cut down. Story 38. Not investing. Many people have thousands of dollars in a savings account, thinking they are doing well, but in reality, they are hurting themselves and losing money to inflation. Story 39. DoorDash, Uber Eats, and caviar. I can't believe how many of my friends come up with excuses for why they need to order delivery instead of picking up or, God forbid, making their own food. Story 40. Using storage facilities long-term is costly. They raise the rent as soon as they can. If you live out of state, try not to let them know. Otherwise, they will raise the prices higher because they assume you are not in a position to move your belongings out. If an item can go into storage, it likely is not something you need. You are better off selling items and replacing them later. I have seen friends spend thousands of dollars storing items they did not need or want but could not let go of. They could not afford these expenses, but it seemed harmless when spread out over monthly payments for years. Ultimately, they were usually ready to part with these things years later when moving into a new house with more storage. They would often choose to donate most of it because it no longer suited their lifestyle or taste. Story 41. By a mile. Buying new vehicles thinking they are a better deal than slightly used vehicles because they will last longer, and then trading them in 3 years later to repeat the process. Story 42. Not cooking enough at home and not comparing prices at the grocery store can increase expenses. My wife and I cook at home all the time. We replicate meals we have had in restaurants for a fraction of the cost. For example, you can go to one store and buy chicken thighs for 99 cents a pound on sale or spend $3 a pound on sale somewhere else. Since we have been doing this, we have saved over $2,000 in the last year on groceries. Also, avoid renewable subscriptions to services you do not even use. Story 43. Honestly, car ownership in general. Think of how much extra disposable income we would have if our cities were designed so you could get around by walking, cycling, or using public transportation, and did not have to spend thousands every year on car payments, gasoline, insurance, maintenance, and so on. Story 44. Buying new cars and financing them, then making it worse by upgrading before the first one is even close to being paid off. One of the fastest ways to lose money. Story 45. Having a mental image of what they deserve and spending according to that, instead of according to what they can actually afford, is irresponsible and egotistical. Why do you deserve a nice car but not other people? They are not better or worse. Everyone has their own reasons. Story 46. Virtually any sunk cost fallacy in practice. People spend money on something that is not working out but cannot walk away because of how much they have already spent. You see this with people trying to flip houses all the time. You might get your money back, but the significant financial stress you will experience probably will not make it worth it and could bankrupt you. Story 47. Buying coffee every day when you have more than likely got no excuse to make your own at home. $3 a day adds up and becomes a habit. Story 48. The number of people in this post who do not seem to understand that a solid 50% of people live paycheck to paycheck is surprising. Many suggest that 50% of your paycheck should go to savings and question how someone does not have $60,000 sitting in reserves. I make $60,000 per year, where minimum wage is $15 per hour, and I cannot afford to live by myself easily. People need a reality check. Story 49. I don't know about ruined, but I couldn't sleep well if I had a perpetual car payment. There are many people I know who make less money than me driving cars that cost a year's income. I prefer to have actual money in the bank rather than payments to make. Story 50. Buying a new car every time you pay off the old one. A friend of mine said, I love leasing cars because this way I get a new one every 3 years. He is 70 years old and is nowhere close to retiring. Story 51. Consider all expenses as monthly payments that fit within your monthly income, rather than focusing on how individual purchases impact your financial growth. Story 52. Free shipping for orders over £X, and most items are just under the free shipping threshold. Instead of accepting the £3 shipping fee, people add another item to unlock free shipping and end up paying 40% more than planned. There is an energy drink company and a nutrition supplements company that do this, and it is very frustrating. Story 53. I think the habit of buying a new car every 3 to 5 years is the single biggest destroyer of wealth in middle-class America. A current new car payment is about $750 per month. Many people spend that amount and do not think twice about replacing the car, even when it could last more than 20 years. They panic over a $1,000 repair bill that happens once, while the $750 per month payment never ends if they do not pay off a car. By reasonably maintain and repair what is needed, and drive the car for 2 decades. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.